Another, wow, special Thursday, right? As Tullowit points out, a show that can only happen once every 4 years. Minimum? Maximum? Whatever. What a week. Things accomplished, things set up. I'm very excited. We got a lot of ground to cover today, and so I'm not going to beat too much around the bush. Welcome to ADRAMADA, another Dave Rush Ask Me Anything, Digital Alchemy. I'm going to change Alchemy. I came up with a better choice today. I've got to get all the paperwork and all that happy stuff, but it'll be close. And I am the aforementioned Dave Rush. We get together every Thursday night at 7 p.m. Central Time. Please come for the shirt. I have a cool shirt on today. I'll tell you about it in a second. Stay for the news, stay for the project, whatever we do that night. So I am the Commodore of ADRAMADA, and you are the wind in the sails of our little get-together. You are the ADRAMADA Armada. Yeah, why not? We'll see. So, today, if you're watching live, it is Thursday, February 29th, 2024. This happens once every 4 years that we get a February 29th. Does everybody understand why? I'm not going to get into it here, but I ran across all kinds of news articles in the last 2 days. What would happen if we didn't have a leap year or a leap day? And it just continued on and on. I was like, come on, this is grade school common sense, though I know they don't do a lot in grade school anymore. So today is officially Leap Day, and therefore the next time we will see a Leap Day will be 4 years from today, February 29th in the year 2028. Yeah. Let us briefly pause to mark the passing of Richard Lewis 2 days ago at 76 years of age. One heck of a comedian. Like all comedians, he had his demons, or like most comedians. But, wow, he was a showstopper. Today, is it noteworthy? What else happens on Leap Day? I thought this would be surely something really interesting in the annals of people who track this kind of stuff. And, I suppose there is. But I only came up with 3 things that I thought worthy of note. On this date, in the year 1504, Columbus used the solar eclipse to frighten hostile Jamaican natives. Movies use that scene. Books use that scene. Mark Twain used that as a device one time in Connecticut Yankee in King Arthur's court. So I never realized until I did a little reading up on it today that was actually all based on a real event, and it was old Chris himself. In 1692, 3 women were the first 3 people to be accused of witchcraft and therefore to be tried at what became known as the Salem witch trials. There were executions. There was no burnings. There were no witches burned at the stake. However, there were women who were executed. And in the year 2000, 24 years ago on this date, am I back? Yes, I am. Sorry about that. OBS kicked out. I always start it a couple seconds before the show so they don't have problems like this. And today I didn't. I'd started it way early. So that's what I get. Don't change things. Well, anyways, eep, op, orc, and the news that I do like to get out every time. If you would like to communicate with me in any way, fashion, the easiest, most intimate way to do it is via either of the 2 email addresses that I've just posted in the chat feed. If you want to get me on a more public forum where I will see it immediately, I check email a couple of times a day, but I am logged in all the time to my Discord server and some other Discord servers. So if you will contact me at the ADRAMADA Discord server. The invite is now in the chat feed. You will probably find me if it's waking hours in the central time zone. And I get started about 5 a.m. and I keep going till about midnight or so. So that's the best way to do it. All right, let's finish this up. No head. Let's just go to the slideshow and do these 2 slides. So last week's show, we did the second part of Popeye, pop_pi, the Pop OS Linux distribution, ported to the Raspberry Pi. 2 weeks ago, we did an installation of it and a verbal tour. Last week, we did the full visual tour. I've been playing with it all week. I kind of like the thing. I don't think that the Pi 4 is the best environment for it. Pi 5 is better, but it's pretty cool. Only yesterday did I shut it down because I had to put a Rocky server up for something I had going on. But and that was cool. I pulled my Rocky micro SD card, popped it in, booted up, said, this has been at least 6 months since I've done an update on it. Let's get fired up. About an hour later, it was done. I don't think not quite that long, but. So what are we doing this week? This week we are, why am I doing tattoos next? We are doing Presearch. We're going to take a look at the Presearch search engine. We'll look at what makes it tick, why it's different than probably every search engine that almost anybody here has ever used. And then we will join forces with the nice folks at Presearch and their search engine network by creating a search node. And what's really cool for you and me is anybody can set up a search node if you've got a Windows machine, a Mac machine, or a Linux machine, and that includes Raspberry Pi Linux. It's ARM-based. If it runs Docker, long and short, there is an image that will run in there. And once we get a handle on this thing, you'll see what a cool thing. So I set this up Monday, maybe Sunday night, something like that. And it's not got a lot of action yet, but it gets more and more every day. So it's interesting. I bought a bandsaw. I've had bandsaws in the past, and I have sold them when I haven't needed them for a long time, and suddenly I find myself in need, so I bought a bandsaw. And I've been on the hunt for the right bandsaw for a couple months. And one of the things that makes it right is the cost. So I found a bandsaw. The price was way too good to be true, and I went and met the seller and found out why it was so good. It was not quite junk, but it was in really bad shape. So for the last couple of weeks, I have been bringing it back to life. And yesterday, I got it working again in good shape. Today, I finished up most of the cosmetics. There was a lot of missing screws and bolts and things like that. I had to go into a hardware store, take the thing in, put it on a stand, and start testing screws. There were so many screws missing. There were so many different sizes. The shirt. I ran into this thing heading down a rabbit hole. I wear this shirt proudly because I was there. I was at BrainShare in 1994. BrainShare was an annual convention, exposition of held by Novell, like Novell NetWare, Novell Networks. And I was one of their certified network instructors, certified NetWare instructors. And I went to this convention every year. It was in Provo, Utah, if you're not familiar. And back in those days, I didn't make a ton of money. And the idea of buying a shirt was unfathomable. So I ran into this shirt the other day going down a rabbit hole and said, woohoo! And I should have interacted more with the seller on the hopes that, might have been somebody I knew. BrainShare, Novell. That was cool. Yesterday, February 28th, I did a day-long class on a product called Ascender, Ascender. And Ascender is a front end to Ansible. We did a little bit on Ansible here sometime last year. Ansible is a method by which we update computers remotely. And its magic is it's agentless. It's got a lot of magic, but it means I don't have to run something on a server over there in order to communicate with it over here. I can have 50,000 servers, 1 million servers, 2 million servers all out there in the world, and they don't know anything about my Ansible server or my Ascender server. I just do magic on my Ascender server, and we can inventory all the machines out there. We can update them. We can bring this machine needs this kind of update. This machine doesn't. It's powerful. It's flexible. And I've seen many demonstrations on Ascender from the people who develop it, Rocky CIQ. And I understood its principles, its concepts, but not its internal, not the mechanics, not where I had to sit down with keyboards. So we sat down yesterday. I was in a class, an online class with a bunch of other folks, and we learned Ascender fundamentals over the course of a day. There's so much more to learn, of course, but wow, very, very fun, interesting day. Upcomings, March 5th, I will be in a webinar with CompTIA as they present to instructors the new N10009 Network Plus exam objectives. Woohoo! On that same day, March 5th, 6th, and 7th, there is a convention here in town, the Energy and Energy Convention. They have a lot of them here in Houston. And this is the HPC Energy Convention. How high-performance computing and their vendors can assist the energy industry in doing the things that they do, researching and analysis and geology and so much more. So the nice folks over there at from CIQ Rocky will be there, and they were kind enough to let me come along and see them, join up with them. The tentative plan after that, March 14th, guest interview with Snaju. I mentioned Snaju last week, Adam and Zach and others over there. They are fascinating. Their company is fascinating. Why it's called Snaju is fascinating. And so that's March 14th. March 19th, I am traveling that week. That will be the week that I either get a guest host or there's no show. I'll let you know when we get a little closer to that. March 28th, the week we're back. Another interview with Laura Tate. Laura has a PC support company. She is the owner-operator, and I wanted to talk to her about how she got into it, what she does, what kind of credentials she's accumulated, what's it like operating a PC support company as a woman in a male-dominated world. Interesting answers. We've had a nice long chat the other day about some of these things, and it'll be fun to talk about. And then, a week and a half later, April 18th, usual show. Yeah, Thursday. And then Friday, Saturday after that, I will be in Austin for the Texas Linux Fest. So lots of good stuff on the calendars. All right, well, let's see who's here, what you guys are talking about, and then we will do some stuff, eh? I amuse myself sometimes with my own notes, forgive me. All right, as I posted, all packages have been shipped except one. The person who has not shipped is aware, and we are working on it. I was stunned. I said, how much? So, okay, who got here? Tullowit 5 hours before showtime. Joe Giovanetti pops in about an hour later, forgetting today was Thursday, with using Shaya's hands, and then Shaya Moonstone pops in with her trademark 3 pink waivers. Tully pops in then once again half an hour before showtime, followed immediately by Shia. You guys should just hold the show before I get here for a couple hours. You don't need me. Jason Helms pops up right on the minute. Minimum. Not sure when the next leap day will fall on a Thursday. Ah, I see where you're going with that. 2052. I will not be here. There will be no show that day. Somebody hopefully will dig into the archives and say, hey, remember that old ADRAMADA guy, Dave Rush? Didn't he do a show on a Thursday leap day once? Gosh, can you imagine how outdated this show and today's technology will be 25 years from now? Should be really interesting. Our kids will know. Some of you will. Some of you are going to be around here. Oh, man, Scott is here. Scarhart, welcome. Hey, buddy, good to see you. Thank you for popping in, as ever and always. It's going to be a fun show. It's going to be a fun show. There, that's all. All right. Well, let's do a little bit of tech news. We have fun stuff in tech news. So I've got 5 stories. They're all over the place today. This first story is about the ink in your tattoo. I have no tattoos. Well, the occasional black eye. But it goes away. Yeah, no. Well, there's the one, but Scott, you're one of the only people who's ever seen it, so. Anyway, a researcher, nice lady named Kelly Mosman, a chemistry researcher at Binghamton University. I spent a lot of time in Binghamton. Analyzed more than 50 tattoo inks from 9 different brands used in the U.S. after noticing that some of the inks they had used in previous studies contained substances that weren't on the label. And they also tested inks made by global companies and smaller producers. And the researchers found in this new analysis that of 54 samples of ink they ran through chemical analysis, 45 of them contained unlabeled substances, including unlisted pigments and additives. Some ink labels also listed additives that weren't there. 36 listed glycerol, and it was only detected in 29 of these inks. Glycerol was proclaimed the, what do they call it? What's the accurate name here? Allergen of the Year in 2018. So, you know, I don't have any strong feelings one way or the other about tattoos. But if you do, or if you're interested, maybe I can see, you know, this is a great way to get punched in the nose. You go into your tat, yeah, like a flying dragon or a butterfly or whatever. Yeah, good. Here's your drawing. Can I see the label on your ink? And I want to check that against this. You will get a tattoo inside your nostril, I'm pretty sure, for that. And then sadness. So Odysseus landed on the moon the other day. We mentioned it on last week's show. It tilted over onto its side. And they thought, it's okay. That side that it tilted over will prevent us from gaining access to one of the experiments. But there's 5 other experiments that we'll be able to get to. So cool. There are 2 sets of solar arrays in there, and of course a bunch of batteries. one of the solar arrays was completely unusable because of the way it landed. So they were dependent on the other solar array. And because of the landing position, it can't get enough sunlight to repower the batteries. So it's pretty much 100% battery power until it's dead. It may be dead as we speak here live on Leap Day. Certainly in the next day or two, they said it was only going to last a few days. So I don't know if they're going to get any science done, but space is hard. It's one of the hardest things we do. My take on this is not the success or failure of this particular mission. There were successes, there were failures. My take is we need to, for Mars, for the moon, for asteroids, we need to re-envision lander architecture. We keep trying to put these on tall, spindly legs. And this isn't the first time we've lost one for Tiltover, and it's not the first time we've lost one. Several other nations have lost landers for the fact that these are cattywampus. And so I don't know what the solution is. The first thing kind of came to my mind is a giant, not styrofoam, but some foam type strength material that can handle a fairly hard landing and, like a sphere, let it roll. And then once it's done rolling, rotate weights or extend or do whatever, and then pop that shell off. I don't know. My next door neighbor is a space architect. Dr. He probably doesn't want me putting his name out. Emigre from Russia. Wonderful folks. Really love those guys. I'm going to go talk to him about that. I'll catch him after school tomorrow. He's a professor up at Sam Houston, maybe, somewhere thereabouts. The Thwaites Glacier in the Antarctic. They noticed in the 70s accelerated erosion, which is immediately attributed to global warming. And folks, for the record, global warming is real. I absolutely believe in it. I don't believe that it's man-made. I may have said this several hundred times before. But nope, that was it. In the 70s, global warming began, and, well, some new research and some photographs and things like that. Turns out it has been eroding since they started looking at it, and therefore probably before, in the 40s. So do with that what you will. But it certainly is dramatic. And, when you see something crashing off the side, yeah, it's global warming. I don't doubt that. We have a glacial period every 15,000 years. And then halfway through, we have a hot period. We're heading toward that hot period. We've lived in a wonderful time. And maybe not. Maybe this has just been the time that our generation, 1,000 years of civilization, is used to. 6,000 years from now, when the average temperature runs to be 115, 120, they may look and say, man, those people back in the 20th century, they must have been freezing. I know. Do I have you stirred up? I know some of you that just goes. Are you worried about microplastics and its buddy nanoplastics? Together, NMPs, nano and microplastics. Well, there's a lot of people who are. And I don't have any feelings on this one way or the other. They exist, and are we causing them? Sure. Are they bad for us? We don't know yet. But we got them. It's like COVID. It's here. It's good. It's bad. There's nothing that we can do about it in the immediate, but hopefully in the long term. And that is the crux of today's article. Many researchers are looking for ways to reduce the impact or the ingestion of micro and nanoplastics. They're trying to do it in such a way that it's technologically simple and inexpensive. This week's report, the best one they've come up with so far, reduces 25 to 90% of microplastics and nanoplastics, NMPs, by, and I'll give you the reason for the range here in a second, boiling water and then filtering it through a coffee filter. It's a regular paper coffee filter. The harder the water, specifically the calcium carbonate content, CaCO3 if you like, also known in general as lime, right? You see lime scale and lime encrusting on things that hold water for a long time, the boil water. Well, that lime, that calcium carbonate, when it's boiled and the microplastics are boiled, it doesn't absorb, but it surrounds in the calcium carbonate molecules the nanoplastics. And once that's done, those particles are large enough to be stopped by a filter. So if you don't have much lime in your water, you won't get as much microplastics filtered out. If you've got real heavy water, not deuterium heavy, but hard water, that's the phrase, got lots of hard water, then you can get rid of a lot of microplastics by boiling and filtering. Well, it grows fast, right? AI every day and deep fakes. And there's an official definition for deep fake that doesn't meet the one that you and I are familiar with, but it don't matter. And leaves gross yellow stains. Yeah, really hard water does. I didn't grow up on a farm, but for long periods of time, I was sent to live with grandma while the parents worked out whatever issues they were working on. And that was a farm, and we had a well to the point that there was no running water in the kitchen. When they grew up, the well was outside. When I was there as a young child, before 10 years old, way before, there was a pump, just a hand pump at the kitchen sink. So we didn't have faucet knobs or anything like that. And that water was the hardest water in all of humanity. And there was an oil well under the property. And so the water was just saturated with the smell of methane. And you get used to it, but going back there every now and again, there's a new family that lives in that house, of course. But I did stop in there a couple of years ago and say, hey, this is old grandma's house. Can I take a look at the place? And they, of course, have indoor plumbing now. And the water still smells like methane. Anyway, so using deep fakes, the term that we recognize and know for photographs and images and voices and things like that, they are tough to distinguish, or getting tougher to distinguish between the real thing. And so research are constantly on the move to come up with deep fake detecting systems. And I like this group. Research published in, here's a tech journal for you, the International Journal of Ad Hoc and Ubiquitous Computing, introduced a new approach to tackling these challenges. This novel method combines, I didn't read the article long enough to get into what these terms mean, mini exception, and that's one word with no E in front of the X, mini exception, and I like this, long short-term memory models, LSTMs, to analyze suspicious content more effectively and identify deepfake than anything else that's out there. And they claim to achieve 99% accuracy, greater than 99%, 99.46 or something like that. So. All right, that's tech news of the week. Sorry. Moving up in my notes, getting ready for our next piece. Black Eye Dave. One of these days I'll be in the middle of a show and somebody who doesn't like me will have me swatted. You guys will see me in a barrage of gunfire as I duck behind the safety of my 24-inch monitor. 27 won't fit in my hutch. Very good, Jason. Microsoft Copilot is newt to be trusted. Is there any that you would trust? Check out the ADRAMADA AI channel. When someone asks me about global warming, I refer them to Genesis 8:22. Very nice. Very, very nice. Shia, hard water also stinks. Yes, it does. And leaves gross yellow stains. Hard seltzer doesn't. I wonder what a group you are. Guys, if you're watching this on archive, you are missing the chance to put in zingers like these. Catch us live Thursday, 7 p.m. Central Time for an hour, and you will enjoy this. Hey, well, it's been a half an hour. Let us talk about Presearch. We'll do our project for tonight. Today's project is to become a Presearch node. And fine, we'll do that, but let's talk about why. So I mentioned to you guys a couple of weeks ago that I had abandoned my search engine of choice. And I don't mind giving up a name. It was Quant. I liked Quant. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't the best one out there. It's not as good as the best ones, but it was good enough. And for 90%, 95% of the searches that I needed to do, Quant delivered for me. And when it didn't, then I would drop back to one of the more traditional ones. Well, then Quant made a change, and I said, no, I cannot use them anymore. And so I dropped back to DuckDuckGo. Mentioned it here on the show. I mentioned it on some of my social media platforms, and I got some feedback from some folks. Have you tried this? Have you tried that? And somebody said, have you tried Presearch? No, never heard of it. So when I do a trial like that, I go all in. So took my daily driver, made the preferred search engine Presearch, and started using it for the last few weeks. It's good. But what we need to understand about it, there's no but, is what's different about it. So when you make a Google search, or any of the other big ones, a Bing search, a Quant search, one of two things happen, and for all intents and purposes, it's the same thing. They have these little servers running in their facilities, in-house and all over the world, but they're theirs, and they're crawling the web all the time, looking for web pages and categorizing their content. So when you send a request to google.com, it looks in that content database and says, got it for you. Here's 10 hits, 50 hits, 1,000 hits that meets your request parameters. And along the way, their revenue model says, oh, by the way, since you are looking up slippers, we would like to advertise rabbit hunting shotguns to you. You get the idea. They all pretty much work like that. The only major twist to that is sometimes you'll go to this search engine and they in turn actually use somebody else's search engine results and pass them on to you. And there's a little tit for tat in exchange. Hey, we'll give you search information and we'll push your advertising, whatever. Well, Presearch does the same thing, except their crawler nodes and the ones that actually provide conglomerated data or pre-conglomerated data belong to you and me and the millions of others of us. How many are there? I think I got numbers on that. About 80,000, a couple 100,000. I'll kind of want to get into my notes here. But let's say Jason has signed up and said, I want to be a Presearch search engine node. Okay, so it puts a little piece of software on his machine, and in the background, it crawls the web, and it also hangs around for search requests. And so every now and again, somebody issues a search request, and it goes to Presearch.com, and Presearch.com selects at that time a bunch of nodes, one of them owned by Jason. And so Jason's machine stops web crawling and says, oh, I got to do a search. And maybe it's assigned to one search engine, and maybe it's assigned to several or multi. Doesn't matter. It's kind of cool. I'll show you where to sign up, Jason. It's going to be awesome. And so his machine will do a search, maybe a Google search, maybe a Quant search, maybe a DuckDuckGo search, maybe a YouTube search. Maybe there's 135 search engines that these guys use. So he does a search, he gets a result, and he sends it back to Quant headquarters web server. And so do a whole bunch of other nodes. And then when they all get back to that Quant server, it puts them all together and presents them to the user. That sounds time consuming, right? I was certainly concerned about that process. If it's time consuming, it doesn't feel like it. Sometimes I will do a very complicated search, and it does seem to take longer than if I were to go straight to one of the horse's mouths, Quant or DuckDuck or something like that. The problem is with that, I only get the results that Quant knows about or that DuckDuck knows about. In this instance, I'm going to get results from a lot of other sources. Go to Presearch.com and test this out for yourself. You don't have to log in or anything like that. If you do create an account and you log in, they pay you to do searches. Every time you do a search, they up your account with some kind of cryptocurrency. They call it Pre. And you can do things with Pre, like buy more services from them. It has monetary value in the cryptocurrency. So you can put it in your crypto wallet and trade it out for your other favorite cryptocurrency, or let it sit and hope it goes up in value or whatever. And if it goes down in value, big deal. You never lost anything. You got searches. Well, as I said, maybe I want to understand that a little better. Maybe I want to make a little more Pre. I don't know what your rationale is. I want to do it because it looked fun. So I said, I would like to become one of these nodes. So went to Presearch.com. I've got an account. I've logged in. I've made a little bit of Pre. I've got about 25 Pre tokens, whatever that's worth. I don't care. I search a lot, but it doesn't grow very much. I'm picking up like 0.03 or 0.04 a day. And I don't know if they start out then by giving you 25 to start with, or how I accumulated that 25. But there we go. So Presearch nodes can be created in Windows, in macOS, on just about any flavor of Linux, including Linux that runs on ARM systems like the RPi. And all you got to do, it's a very simple process. You start by signing up. You just go get yourself an account. It's free, of course, and they don't ask you for any information other than a password and an email address. And all right, now you're starting to gain. And then there's a page that you can go to that will give you a node registration number. This is step number 1. Get an operating system, log into Presearch, and get that number, because you're going to need that later. Step number 2, install Docker. Install Docker on Windows, install Docker on Mac, on Linux, and Raspberry Pi OS, whatever. And then there's a second step. You have to create a Docker user and add them to a group. Okay, that part's done. There's no questions to answer here. This is all just go. And then there is one long, ugly, evil, nasty, horrible command that you copy and paste. And I'm not going to explain it all. It's way too huge. But I'm going to show you the page. I'll put up the link where you can go and learn all this stuff, how to do this. In fact, let me post these 2 links now. There's 2 pages of instructions on how to do all this. Let's see. Node platform setup. Okay, that's the first page. And then the second page is specific platform, such as Linux, setup. Okay, so that's the 2 pages that you're going to use. And of course, I'm going to show them all to you here. That second page is going to be a little different for each person. There's going to be a sublink in there that says, are you doing this on Windows? Are you doing this on, or I'm sorry, the first page. First page is going to be for Raspberry Pi, the way I set it up, that you can go and find out the Windows. And basically it says, install your operating system and update it, and then install Docker and make the appropriate user account. That's part 1. Part number 2 is, all right, what are the specific steps for the operating system that you've chosen? So on that second step, there is this copy paste thing in there that's just line after line after line after line after line. I'm going to show it to you in a moment. And in there, it says something. Do I have that? Let me get the text out of here. And I'll show this all to you. I know I'm bloviating here. Forgive me. SSH Docker. Okay, there it is. All right. As part of this great big gigundous blob of text, there's a line that says, when you copy paste it, registration underscore code equals $ user code, something like that. And what you have to do is get rid of that $ user code and swap in the registration code that you got when you signed up with Presearch. And then you're hunky-dory. Bear with me. This will all make sense. So let me dive into this thing here. I got slides. I got other stuff I want to show you rather than slides. So let me see my notes. Is there anything I want to talk about here? Research nodes in Docker. There's 2 pages. Covered that. So hardware. I used a Raspberry Pi 4 with 8 gigs. That is so overkill, but it's what I have. You can do this on a Raspberry Pi 3 or a Raspberry Pi 4. You must use a 64-bit version of Raspberry OS. 64-bit operating systems if you're using any other Linux flavor or Windows or Mac, and you can't not have those anymore, so it's all cool. If you're going to do it with an RPi, you have to use the Bullseye distro, the new Bookworm. It doesn't work yet. So install the 64-bit legacy version. You can do it all command line. It's 100% command line operational, so you can do a light version or a non-desktop version, or you can do a full version if you've got the room. I used a 64 gig micro SD card. I could do this with a 16. It works fine. It doesn't suck up a lot of hard drive space or storage space. So you install Legacy Bullseye 64-bit on a Raz 3 or Raz 4. And then you use your Raspberry Pi imager to do that, of course. Configure, burn your image to your micro SD card or your flash drive. Pre-configure it. You know, when you go into... Oh, by the way, every time you run the Raspberry Pi imager, always check and see if there's a newer version, because they're coming out with new ones about every 20 minutes. So there's a configuration menu in there where you can name your Pi, pre-enable SSH, which you want to do if you want to do this headlessly, of course. You can set your SSID if you want to connect to your local Wi-Fi, set your passwords and account names and all that stuff, and then hit the big burn button. And then we have done installs millions of times here. I'm not going to do an install with you. Pop your micro SD card into your Raspberry Pi, add power. Don't pop it in while power is already on. Let it go through its first boot. It will auto resize. And then you've got to do all the updates, right? Log in and do update and upgrade and set your video and all that good stuff. It takes me Used to take about 20 minutes to do everything. It's getting a little more complicated and sophisticated as time goes by. So 20 to 30 minutes to prep a new Raspberry Pi OS installation. And I blew it, by the way, for the first time. I accidentally installed Bookworm. It's a lovely operating system. Took a little time to play with it, but then I had to blow it away and go put in Bullseye. All right. So let us entertain you. Let me get Putty going here. Do I have Putty already going? No. Pi at Presearch pi.local. Password Raspberry, Raspberry. I know you can't see it, sit tight. And now let's set it up so you can see it. Share Putty. There's Putty. Beg your pardon. All right, so this is a system that I've actually already got running right now, but I will show you what you've got to do. So we'll consider it fresh and shiny, and I'm not going to hit the enter key on some of these, but I will show you the results in a neat way that I thought about after a while here. Pi's configured, it's been rebooted. If you're going to use monitor and keyboard and mouse, that's cool. Do everything either from the command line there or from the terminal prompt that you can get from the graphical desktop. And what you're going to do is you're going to run this very simple command, which I'm going to show you, but I'm not going to hit the enter key, and then I'll show you what it does. You're going to run curl minus SSL. One of the S's is lower, one of the S's is upper. And this website, and pipe the results through the shell. So curl means go out to a website, get certain pieces of it. That's what the SSL is going to do. Download it, and then feed what you've downloaded to a program here. Shell. So let me change this out just a little bit now. I'm going to run you over to VNC. I usually have these up and running, but I was afraid my system was going to be overwhelmed with all this stuff running, so bear with me for just a second. Okay, we do that, we do this. That's Putty, Brave, Real VNC. Okay, we move that up there, we put this in here, and we transition. All right. So here at the top of this screen of the terminal program, you can see I ran curl minus SSL, that website, pipe to shell, and all these results happened until I got back to the prompt, including a little message here that says to run Docker as a non-privileged. Doesn't matter. Just ignore all that stuff. It eventually takes this prompt, and it takes 1 minute. It was almost exactly 1 minute to the second on my machine. Next step is right here documented. We run this sudo usermod -ag Docker. So we're going to create, or we're going to take an account that was already been created called Docker, and we're going to add it to a group. And we're going to do it with this account $user. That means whoever you're logged in as. Oh, and it's a new group. It's called Docker. So we hit the enter, and it just happens instantaneously. I ran this echo $user just to make sure that, yep, it meant Pi. So I didn't have to manually type in some name. And I ran it again just to see if anything would happen or see if something hadn't happened. But you don't have to run it again. All right, here is the monster command. All of this is documented in those 2 links I gave you a little bit earlier. So here in the copy paste of that document, it says registration underscore code equals $ some variable, user code or whatever. And you can't use that. You have to manually edit this when you paste it before you hit the enter key and change $ whatever their variable name is to, there's my secret code. I'm giving it away. That's okay. I can wipe that out in a heartbeat. And then you hit the enter key and panic, error, 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 unable to find my image locally. Well, I watched that and it continued to go. I said, wait a minute, pulling from the auto updater, complete, 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 downloaded the newer image. Hey, that's a good sign. Using the latest image, I pulled it from the Docker Hub, pull, and I launched it. So even though that thing has problems, it calls for a Docker image that doesn't exist anymore. It's out of date and it's gone. The way they wrote the command, they've always got a new one in there ready to be downloaded. So this is what's going to happen at the end of that command, which takes about 20 seconds or so, 15. It's just going to pop up here and it's going to give you these first 5 lines. Okay, Presearch node, you're running version 1.2.32. It generates a key pair. That's so that it can communicate back and forth with the Presearch headquarters node. I've saved that key pair. It's got my private key and their public key, and I've sent my public key to them. Now we're going to connect up to the system, and I have been assigned to a group of listeners called North America US 2. And now he just sits there and listens for searches. Well, after it sat there for about 3 hours and got nothing, I got worried. Stand by. So I headed over to one of their many channels to communicate with for support. I think I went to a Reddit channel and said, hey, I just installed my new thing. I've run some things on other machines and everything looks right. My login over at presearch.com takes me to a page that shows things are looking good, but I'm not getting activity. How do I know if I'm working? And in their document page, they said, by the way, if you've installed this and you want to test it, here's a web server, web address that you can go to and that'll test it. You can get to that page. Actually, you can't get to that page. It doesn't work. But I was able to find their updated version of that. And I did my search there and I saw nothing happen on my system. So again, that's what kind of triggered me. Hey, how can I test this? And their senior dev, their CEO, I don't know, some senior person over there wrote back instantaneously with a congrats. And here's how you can tell it's working. And I'll show you that in a second. And it takes about 3 days for it to stabilize. It'll take at least a few hours to receive your first search request. It took 12 to get my first one, another 6 to get my next one. This is a few days ago, so we're starting to pick up a few here and there. Let me see if I can show you on a web browser that's logged in. Okay, that looks like it's doing what it's supposed to do. Something's missing. Something's missing. Go to my web page here. Try that. Try this. It's not gonna let me see it. I don't know who I've upset, but I've upset somebody. I hate trying to look at web pages on the browser that's built into OBS. It always bites. There. All right, I've got it. All right, so this is my nodes dashboard over at Presearch. And you can see down here at the bottom the stats. So it's been up and running for about 3 days. I've gotten 18 requests that I have responded to accurately. This is a Raspberry Pi that's sitting right here above my head. And this reliability score, this is kind of a cool thing. The higher your reliability score, the more requests will be sent to you. They measure about 3 different performance things about you, about your system and setup, and decide, yeah, that's an okay node. When you first fire up, your initial reliability score is 33. The most you can get is 100. So in those 18 searches that I have to date, let me update this, hit the F10 or F5. Hey, I got 19 now. I have a reliability score of 74, and I was kind of hoping for 74, 75. That's enough to do what needs to be done. So cool stuff. So let's make this make sense here then. What do you do to become a node? You log into Presearch with an account, get an account, and get your registration code. Keep that. Then you pick your platform that makes you happy, runs fine out of your home. It doesn't suck up much bandwidth. It doesn't suck up much CPU time. You install Docker and give an account rights to use Docker. And then you pull the appropriate Docker image from the Docker hub that's all documented and put the right code in there when you load Docker. And it's up and running all the time. It's magic. And it just sits there, listens, and does its thing. And you can do this. You can set up multiples. You can't set up multiples at the same global IP address. So you're going to have to do it, do one on your phone, do one at your house, do one on your virtual private server. Whatever. And there are folks on the various forums who do this. Who I run 24 nodes, and some of them claim they're making bank on the whole affair. Not my cup of mud. It's not why I'm into it. But I will probably keep this thing running as long as humanly possible. I'm really curious just to see what the long-term impact of this thing is. So I'm going to move my Pi hole onto this system, free up another machine, and then just set this up by where I keep all my networking in-fed gear. What are we trying to say? Scott, help me out here. What's the rack that's got all of the distribution gear and is the feed point from your ISP feed? Somebody will come up with that. I'm listening. I'm counting on all of you. All right. The DMARC says it's related to the DMARC. It's connected to the DMARC. Thank you, MDF. A main distribution panel, or main distribution point, MDP. Main distribution, it's not point, is it? Backbone is between, anyway, it is the main distribution panel point. And it's MDF. What the heck is F? Whatever. It is the main distribution point. So I'll move that up there to my MDF, and the world will be a happy place. So that's it. Yeah, I've got the links for them for you. So it will stay on your... By the way, you don't need to keep the terminal page open. It will always sit there and listen. Docker runs fine in the background. I didn't scroll it down all the way, but all it does all the time is say listening, listening, listening. Oh, got a search. Completed the search. Successful. Listening, 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 listening. Frame. Thank you. Thank you. It's a frame. There we go. Looking at my notes here, is there anything? Oh, yeah. So some stats and some of the interesting things about this. I think I did some stuff in the image here. Let's do that headless. Okay, so this is the dashboard. This is the profile, the account page. Once you have an account over on Presearch. And this is the basic architecture. Here in the middle is Presearch.com. And it's connected to all these search engines and search nodes. It uses blockchain to track it all. It issues pre-tokens, and they're, of course, trying to make revenue, so there's keyword ads. You can own a keyword if you're so interested. Whenever anybody searches on a keyword that you purchase, you got to buy these, they will, whoever's used that keyword in your search or in their search, will get an ad from you. So that's kind of cool. So there's that page if I wasn't able to bring it up, the top of it. And there is my listening page, that screenshot. If I wasn't able to connect to it, I had that here ready to go. This is the node distribution. And if you hover over any of these countries, it tells you how many nodes are there. There's higher numbers than this. There's about 80,000 in the world. And there are more in Europe than there are in the U.S. And one of the things I thought was interesting, I was looking at their stats the other day. They get about a little shy of 700,000 searches a day. That's nothing. When you look at Google, they probably get 10, 20, 30, 50 million a day. But, you know, these guys are new to the game, and so more power to them. You can see some of these countries on this map are not colored at all. There's none there. Some of these very, I don't know if you can call them darker or lighter. Some of them have one node in all of them. There's one in Saudi Arabia where I used to live. If I was there, there would be two. So it's really cool. It's really amazing. It's very interesting what they've got up and going. There's we go. That's what that slide looks like. After it just continues to listen for a while and get hit results. And again, you don't need to leave that page up and running. So that's how you become a Presearch node. So I will periodically update you with any information that I get, anything, hints and quirks and kinks, and if I build any pre and whatever comes up. But I will run this thing as long as I possibly can because I just think it's fascinating. Hey, we are out of time. Let's go see who closed up the world. Talk about what's left. Sorry. Good stuff in their documentation. Oh, I got to tell you this about them because this part's kind of cool. So I contacted them. They gave me some information, and then I told them about the server that I wasn't able to find, but I found one on my own. And oh my gosh, that's a mistake, and we're going to fix that. And they fixed it minutes later. And I said, well, you know, as long as you want to know this kind of stuff, here's the error messages that I got when we tried to load the Docker images that are being out of date. Oh man, so they are very proactive at reacting to these kinds of reports. So I've reached out to them to say, can I help you with documentation, making this stuff? Because obviously every time they make a Docker change, all of those documents that they have supporting them and doing the how-tos are going to have to be updated. Okay, regular show next week. I don't know what the topic is. I gave you the upcoming calendar at the beginning of the show. We got a lot of good stuff coming up. It's going to be fun. Let's see, did I miss anything here? DMARC, Backbone, MDF frame. All right, that was the last of our messages. So, as ever and always, I wish you a great rest of the week. Take care of each other. Call or visit your parents if at all possible, and try to stay healthy. Never forget, technology is great, but you and I are the greatest resource of all. And with that, Ooh, I'm getting scared. My system is... I'm afraid to cut it off now. Hang on. Sometimes when I share some of these pages, it gets way behind. There we go. Okay, I'm caught up. Anyway, so never forget, technology is great. The greatest resource we have are you and I. And with that, good night. I'll see you all on ADRAMADA next Thursday, the other platforms that I'm on. Until then, remember, how you do anything is how you do everything. Eep, op, ork, ah, ah.